Sanaa Lathan just earned her first Emmy nomination for her appearance on Succession. I'm David Buchanan with Gold Derby. Sanaa, such a pleasure to be with you today. And first and foremost, congratulations on the Emmy nomination.
Thank you so much.
Tell us how you heard the news, and how does the recognition feel for this role in particular and for this series?
So I was on vacation in Telluride. A friend of mine offered me their house. They have a beautiful house in the mountains out there, and it was pretty early, and I started getting calls. I was actually annoyed. I was still waking up, hadn't had my coffee yet, and my publicist called and they were like, "Congratulations!" And I was like, "For what?" And they were like, "For your nomination." I said, "For what?" The Emmys were not on my radar at all. I had no idea that the nominations were coming out. I wasn't thinking about that in any respect. And so when they told me I was nominated, it was just such a shock at first, and then also just, delightful surprise. I mean, who wouldn't be so thrilled?
No, of course. And Lisa Arthur, your character, plays a really pivotal role this season in the kind of antagonism between Kendall and Logan that the audience has really been anticipating since the end of season two. How did they present this role to you, and who this character is, and what most appealed to you right from the jump that made you want to sign on to this series?
I gotta be honest, like at first I almost didn't do it because I hadn't watched Succession, and we were right in the middle. We had just opened up again, but when we shot it, it was the scary part of the pandemic where you didn't want to get on a plane. It was the end of the year. I think it was like, November or something that I had to fly. And I was like, do I want to risk this? But I once I started watching, it was a binge fest like over the course of like 3 days, and I was like, I got to be a part of this. Um, and They just presented. They told me a little bit about Lisa. They told me about her history a little bit, but they also said that they write as they go along, and so I knew that it would just be, um, you know, about going and having fun with this brilliant group of people on this and working on this brilliant writing. And so I did it, and I'm so happy I did.
Well, we're really happy you did it as well. You submitted the episode "What It Takes" for Emmy consideration. So I just wanted to ask you, what about that episode, you know, right now appeals to you? What about that performance? Because that's arguably your biggest episode in terms of,
Mhm.
confronting Kendall finally after this kind of long
Is,
simmering relationship.
is this the one in the hallway when she kind of, yes, tells him about himself?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, after binging the show, I was like, he needs to be told about himself. You know what I mean? Just as a fan. So there was like a pleasure and a satisfaction in being able to do that and be the one who does that for everybody. Yeah, I mean, I think that people get a little bit of pleasure of seeing it's like he's a bad little boy and she put him in his place.
No question. I mean, I think you're exactly right. It's so satisfying for the audience too, especially because of how he's been acting during this entire thing and toward Lisa. I mean, he
Yes.
says he appreciates her expertise, but there's that scene in that episode too where he tells her to try harder, which is,
Woo!
to the
So
audience so
condescending. Yes.
egregious. I wanted to ask you about playing that scene in particular because it's such a the dialogue is so simple, but
Mhm.
you're conveying so much in your response to him. So just talk about that moment too.
Well, everybody I think has experienced arrogant, self-involved narcissists and having to work for them. Especially as a woman, as a Black woman in this business. I've been doing this for many, many years, and you have to uh, you kind of have to roll with the punches. You can't always tell people about themselves. So I definitely had a lot to draw from, just in terms of my own career in Hollywood. And Yeah, I think that's what was filled with all of that. that, that it's a common, that's what makes Succession so great is, yes, these people are, very unique in their, whiteness and richness and, even meanness, but we all have uh, examples of the feelings that all of these people are going through in real life. And that's what makes it a classic. And I think that what really makes people connect with it.
That's so true, and that's exactly what I want to ask about next. Which let's go back to your first appearance, and your first scene, which is opposite Sarah Snook,
Mhm.
Shiv, because we learn that Shiv and Lisa are friends, to
Yes.
some degree. I just wanted to ask you, what kind of, did you do any kind of thinking and backstory on why are they friends? How did they become friends?
Yes.
Did they tell you anything? Like, what
Yes,
is
we
that
kind of
friendship
came up
about?
with it together that like when she was in DC, we kind of came up together and we were friends and we were both very whip smart, ambitious young women and very close. And, we would party together and be wild together. And then also we were amazing at, our positions and climbing the ladder of our respective careers. And the story that we came up with was that I was in a relationship with someone and it fell apart and Shiv wasn't there for me. She was the close friend who didn't show up. And so that's what I think you're kind of feeling in that first that history, I think Lisa has a little bit of satisfaction that this bomb is going to be dropped on her that she's working with her brother.
I love that. I think it makes that scene so much more rich too, because it's not
Mhm.
only, the fact that she can't work with Shiv because she's already decided to work with Kendall. That's so interesting. I'd
Yeah.
love to hear that. I want to ask you too about Lisa's decision to work with Kendall. Obviously, her history. She wouldn't work with Logan based on the kind
Right.
of cases that she works
Exactly.
on and her, her kind of ethics. But what is it, do you think she sees Kendall as really valiant, or is there something about her own ambition that she thinks the case could be big? What's going on there about why she agrees to work with Kendall?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about like Gloria Steinem, and she's like kind of one of those lawyers who takes on big cases and, you know, but is also kind of a publicity lawyer. So, maybe your client is not, the what they represent is more important than the client. The cause is bigger. And so that's what I think it was for her, as opposed to her really believing in Kendall.
Yeah, and I think that kind of comes through in the first meeting of Lisa and Kendall, in which, he's enthusiastic to work with her, but he's such a loose cannon. I mean, right from those early scenes, I think Lisa can tell he's going to be very hard to work with and
Mm-hmm.
manage. At what point do you think she?
I can only imagine that that's what lawyers have to go through. She's at the top of her profession, so she's dealt with a bunch of, a lot of difficult people. So I don't think that really phases her in the beginning, but I think he pushes her. He pushes her a little too far.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you think there's a moment over the, 4 episodes that you're in that she really feels like she regrets taking on the case? Does she ever feel that way, even when he's, disrespecting her, or is she so committed to, the cause that she's willing to tolerate it?
I can only imagine that I feel like she is so seasoned in as a lawyer that she expects this to be part of the job, difficult people, but I think that, and I think all the way to the end, to when he is just so out of pocket that she's like, okay, this is it.
Let's talk about working with Jeremy Strong, because you share most of your scenes with Kendall, as we've been discussing. Um, I have to imagine on set with him in character, you two exploring their dynamic and building it over 4 episodes. Just talk about that experience, because it comes across so beautifully on screen.
Yes, well, I honestly, um, I was so thrilled to work with him because I think his work as Kendall, just from what I had seen in the first couple seasons, is some of the most exciting, um, you know, electrifying performances I've seen on TV. And so so thrilled to work with him. And yeah, I am a pro. I come from the theater. I've worked with all different types of actors, and I appreciate when people are 100% committed. And it was particularly challenging for me because we were so heavily in the pandemic, and I think it was like one of the very few shows that was actually shooting. I had my wig, I had, a big old suit on. I had to wear a mask and a shield, and like you had to put it on in between every take. And it's hard to communicate with people you can't really understand. And I'm like the new girl on the set. You feel kind of like, it's the first day of school and everybody knows each other. So it was particularly, the first few scenes were particularly like challenging for me in that respect. But he was great. He was such a team player, and he um was very supportive. He was like, let's do it. As many We would play with improvs, and he was like, you need another take, what do you need from me, just all the stuff that you hope to get from a scene partner.
That's great. I know Kendall is not thrilled with Lisa anymore, but the audience certainly is.
Thank
Is
you.
there anybody? Is there anybody on the cast? Because as we said, you worked with Shiv, you worked with Kendall. Is there any character on the series that you didn't have a chance to play with that you would love the opportunity if we see Lisa again?
Oh God. I mean, I love Brian Cox. Just I've been a fan for years. So yeah, him. And remind me of who are all the other characters. I'm blanking right now. So there's Shiv. I would love to do more with Shiv, because even doing that one scene with her, whew, she is fire. She's amazing. Sarah Snook. She's really. This is why it was such a treat working with everybody. Is they're all like the real deal, in terms of the craft of acting. And so you're getting to play with, people who uh, really look at and have lived acting as a craft, and that's how I feel about it. And so definitely her too.
That really comes across on screen from the whole ensemble and from your episodes as well.
Thank
Um,
you.
I wanted to ask you too, as you mentioned, starting season three, you're a new character, just joining the series. What is that like in terms of preparation? How does it feel to join an established show?
Mhm.
I love that you had multiple episodes to come in
Mhm.
and play. But what is that like for you as an actor to come on and establish a new character on an established series?
I did it for The Affair, and that was an established show and everybody knew each other. But I was lucky to, a lot of my scenes with Dominic. He was great. It's always, you always go back to that, because I moved around a lot as a child. And so I remember that feeling of, are they, are they gonna, accept me and like me? So you kind of have a flashback to that, definitely, when you're, especially such well-known casts, when you're entering into that kind of situation. And like I said, it was just such a weird time with COVID. But you just have the nerves and you just step through it and do your job. That's how I have to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I let you go, I don't know if you know if Lisa will be coming back to the series. As I said, we certainly hope to see more of Lisa. I don't know what you can tell us, if anything, but
I
um,
don't know. I don't know. I
if
have
you do, if you do get that call, and we hope you
Mhm.
do,
You.
what do you hope to see for Lisa? As you said, maybe more scenes with Shiv, but what do you hope Lisa
Yeah.
is up to now that she's, I guess, off Kendall's case? What do you hope is next for Lisa in that universe?
Every character on that show is complicated and kind of morally compromised. Um, and I find that so interesting, and that's fun to play. And so, I'm not a writer, but just as an actress, you want juicy, layered roles that you can really be challenged and have nuance and do all that. So I would just say more of that.
Agreed, agreed. Sanaa Lathan, congratulations again on the Emmy nomination for Succession, and thanks so much for talking to Gold Derby today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. This was fun.